Welcome to this evening's mayor-making ceremony and annual general meeting here at the Point. Please could I ask you to put your phones on silent. If the fire alarm sounds, please leave by the nearest exit and make your way to the bandstand. We will now begin with the first item on the order of proceedings, apologies for absence. Are there any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 3 apologies, Councillors Buckley, Hadaway and Reynolds. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further apologies? There is no public participation on this occasion. Mayor's announcements. For those of you who don't know me, I am the Mayor of Eastleigh, Adam Manning, and as Mayor, I chair meetings of the full Council. Before we begin the Council meeting, it is customary for the Mayor to give an overview of the civic calendar. Since our last Council meeting, the Mayoress and I attended Frian Fantasia, which was a great community event. I was pleased to see lots of familiar faces and some new ones. The main focus over the last month has been the coronation, and we attended an event to celebrate it at Pavilion on the Park, which was great fun. We were delighted to work with the Asian Welfare and Cultural Association, the AWCA, to put on a community lunch over the coronation weekend. Over 500 delicious meals were served, and the volunteers from the AWCA and Eastleigh Rotary Club did an amazing job. We also had great support from the EGNA, the Eastleigh Gurkha and Nepalese Association, Age Concern, Eastleigh Bid, and local band Saxophony, who played on the bandstand for us. One of the themes of the coronation weekend was volunteering, and I was pleased to present local hero awards to the people who set up Eastleigh Community Aid to recognise the outstanding contribution they made during the pandemic. Their initiative to set up a group to recruit volunteers to shop, collect medication and befriend people helped hundreds of residents and was a lifeline for many vulnerable people during those challenging times. 2 of them are our Eastleigh Borough Councillors, Lou Parker-Jones and Gin Tindridge. It's a sign of those strange times that the group hasn't all been in a room together until the presentation evening. During my mayoral year, I have seen great work that volunteers do across the borough. They all have their own reasons for volunteering, and we are grateful to every one of them for the difference they make. There will now be a minute's silence in memory of those friends and colleagues that we sadly lost during my mayoral year. Please remain seated. These are Roy Sollett, the past Mayor's escort from 2001 to 2002 and 2017 and 2018. Patrick Halifax, past Mayor from 1979 and 1980. Ray Jones, past Mayor's escort 1994 and 1995. Angela Rolling, former councillor and alderman. Dennis Trenar, Deputy Town Clerk and Town Clerk of Eastleigh Urban Council, 1954 to 1974, and Chief Executive of Eastleigh Borough Council, 1974 to 1985, and Mary Stallard, past Mayoress, 1960 and 61. Thank you very much, everyone. I would also like to thank our retiring councillors, Tim Bearder, Ray Dean, Tim Groves, Sarah Tyson-Payne and Jane Rich. We thank you all for your service to Eastleigh Borough Council, and we welcome our new borough councillors. Please make yourselves known as I call out your names. George Baker for Chandler's Ford. Karen Cause for Bishopstoke.
Hi.
Barry de Croo for West End South. Alison Holland for Hamble and Netley. Jane O'Sullivan for Bursledon and Hound North. Rosemary Reynolds for Eastleigh North. Rosemary has sent her apologies for this evening. Congratulations also to all the newly elected parish councillors for the Borough of Eastleigh. We will now proceed to the election of Mayor, and I invite Councillor Richard Gomer to propose the nomination for the office of Mayor for the municipal year 2023-2024.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is this on? No. Are we good? Yes. An auspicious start. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. It's really a great pleasure to address you this evening on the subject of Eastleigh Borough's next mayor, particularly to be proposing as dear a colleague and friend as Nick Couldry. So, in preparing this speech, I wanted to do some homework, so I went to see Nick to learn more about the customary things that are included in a mayor-making speech, like where he's from and what series of unfortunate events led him into local politics. So I also did, unbeknownst to Nick, a little bit more homework and conducted a survey of some of the other members, as well as other people from Eastleigh Liberal Democrats who I thought, might help us to understand the real Nick. So think of this as a job interview plus references. Nick was born in 1951 in Nairobi in Kenya, where his grandfather had been resettled after the First World War. Now, Nick describes himself as a victim of privilege. Our survey said posh, and I admit that I did actually Google the pronunciation of Kenya because I thought perhaps privilege is why Nick was saying it like that. No, lo and behold, the official pronunciation of the name of that particular country was in fact changed at independence in 1963. So Nick was in fact born in Kenya. Sorry for calling you posh. Anyway, Nick's grandfather, as well as running a newspaper, was a member of the Colonial Legislative Council, and Nick's parents became involved in politics as supporters of Michael Blundell, who founded Kenya's first multiracial party, the New Kenya Party, and who advocated for African majority rule in Kenya. So politics, and recognisably liberal politics at that, is something that Nick had experienced from a young age. Nick was soon dispatched from the rolling plains of Kenya to the damp and rainy dales of Yorkshire, which he describes as chillier but no more hygienic, to study at Ampleforth Catholic Public School, travelling back to Kenya for Christmas and the summer holidays. On one occasion, Nick was refused entry to Kenya, having forgotten his passport, until his mother told bemused border officials to keep him. Nick went on to study politics and economics at the then fairly new University of York. Now, those of you who know the University of York will know that one of its defining features is the lake, which Nick explains complicates the rules of croquet. Because the croquet balls float, and so if you knocked it into the lake, you had to play it from the back of a punt. Having survived the lake, Nick went on to attend law school in London and was then apprenticed to a lawyer. After qualifying, he went on to work for Sackers, where he remained for the rest of his career, initially working in what he describes as everything but pensions. Nick and the firm went on to specialise in pensions law, a sector which went through a great period of regulatory change after, as Nick puts it, Robert Maxwell fell off a boat. I had to Google that as well. So as a bachelor living in London, Nick fell in with the Liberals, whose non-conformism appealed to him. He joined the party in the 1970 election and was an agent in Chelsea in 1974. He stood as a parliamentary candidate in Putney in 1979, only very narrowly losing his deposit. He was refused a recount. His opponent, David Mellor, was famously later rumoured to have been found in bed with his mistress wearing a Chelsea shirt, something that would obviously not have happened if Nick had won. Because Nick supports Southampton. So as well as standing in elections, Nick and the Liberals would occasionally go for a drink. And they invented a game on these nights out in which players had to come up with the worst pick-up line. The winner of the game then had to go and use their line on an unsuspecting victim. So Nick's winning line was, "What do you think of site value rating?" which was at the time a Liberal Party policy on land taxation. Unsurprisingly, that is not how Nick met his future wife. Nick, in fact, met Anne in 1977 at a stranger's house party that his flatmate had invited him along to. I don't know what he said to her, but perhaps we will find out at the bar later. We can perhaps guess what he didn't say. The couple were married in 1978. They have 2 children and 3 grandchildren. Now, Anne was training to be a doctor, and her training contracts meant that the couple spent time in London and West Sussex before eventually moving to Eastleigh Borough in 1987 when Anne got a job at Southampton. Nick's work kept him busy, commuting to London and often staying overnight, so he didn't have much time to get involved in local politics, but he retained his party membership and enjoyed the novelty of living somewhere with Liberal councillors. In 2016, after retirement, Nick found himself with more free time on his hands and with Des Scott on his doorstep, and he went on to win a seat on Eastleigh Borough Council. He lost his seat in 2021, I see Steve at the back there, but won again in 2022. Now, Nick says he finds being a councillor incredibly interesting, and he enjoys working out how things which are not pensions law work. I personally have enjoyed firsthand Nick's interest in working out how to use Facebook. Now, I know that Nick gets a great sense of satisfaction, which many of us will recognise from helping residents in his ward. And one of the things that came through from Nick's colleagues in my survey is a sense of how genuinely hard he works for local residents. Councillor House explained that he didn't have much time to fill in the survey because he had so many emails to respond to from Nick about issues affecting Fair Oak. Now, as many of us also know, Nick is a man of principle, and many of those of us who've heard him speak at council will recognise that. His lifelong involvement in politics clearly has not been from a sense of self-importance or a desire for personal gain, nor a belief that being a Liberal is a route to quickly become an MP, but from a belief in progressive politics and of liberty and equality for all. And Nick's commitment to the community is more than just principle. He puts it into practice. As well as working hard as a councillor, Nick volunteers with Citizens Advice. He is a governor of Wyvern College, and he was instrumental in saving Fair Oak Library. And I know that as mayor, Nick hopes to support others who are doing good work in the borough. So as I said at the start, I wanted to treat this a bit like a job interview, so that the members who are voting in a moment have a chance to, consider the decision that they're about to take. So once again, I turned to Google, this time for some interview questions. So question 1 then was, what's your favourite biscuit? I thought this would be an easy little icebreaker, set the tone, diffuse some tension, nothing difficult about it, except Jaffa cakes, says Nick. I had actually expected Nick to be aware of the 1991 VAT tribunal that ruled Jaffa cakes to be cakes, and not biscuits, but clearly too far removed from pensions. So we take Nick's second answer on that, which is ginger nuts. Question 2. Nick, if someone made a film of your life, who should they cast as you? Now, I asked this question to Nick's colleagues as well, again turning to Google to find out who on earth the suggestions were. We had Kenneth Moore, Hugh Bonneville, Tom Hanks, Tom Hollander, in quotes, because they are about the same height. I discovered that Tom Hollander is not the same as Tom Holland. Others said that nobody else could possibly play Nick, and he would need to star as himself. Nick himself said, it would be very stupid to make a film of my life, but I suppose Danny DeVito, because it would have to be played for a laugh. Finally, then on to question 3. Nick, if you were a pizza, what kind of pizza would you be? Now, our survey said, and I don't know who wrote these things. Someone said, a Hawaiian, a mix of lots of flavours and a hint of the exotic, which I think must be the nicest thing anyone has ever said about a Hawaiian pizza. Someone else said quatre saisons, because Nick is a man of all seasons. But I have to say the general consensus was actually to reject the premise of the question and to doubt that Nick has ever actually eaten a pizza. Now, Nick himself said a seafood pizza. Now, I tried to delve into this, and I asked if that was because he considers himself divisive. No, turns out Nick just likes seafood pizza. And isn't there an honesty in that? Be the pizza that you think others would enjoy. So I think Nick passed the interview, and I have to say that the references he received were glowing. In some of the words of his colleagues, Nick is affable, hard-working, diligent, posh, pleasant, jovial, intelligent, and kind. Nick, thank you so much for asking me to propose you as mayor, and thank you for volunteering to be our borough's first citizen. You're an absolute sweetie, and I know that you will make a fantastic mayor. So members, may I please propose that we choose Councillor Nick Caldry as mayor for the municipal year 23-24.
Thank you, Councillor Goma. I invite Councillor Michelle Marsh to second the nomination.
Firstly, I'd like to start off by saying thank you so much, Richard, for insisting that we spoke from a lectern and not from our seats as recommended. Right, honoured guests, ladies, gentlemen and councillors, I'm proud and honoured to stand here today to second the nomination of Nicholas Caldry. The role represents a tremendous opportunity to engage with our diverse community throughout the borough and surrounding area, and I know that Nick is the right person for the job, and he will have a positive impact on this role. I met Nick for the first time on the 12th of December 2018 when he visited my home to see whether I'd make a suitable candidate for the elections. Nick clearly had a lapse in judgment, because days later I was interviewed and found myself in the midst of an election campaign. Little did he know what hard work he'd have on his hands from then, because not only was I completely new to elections, I was absolutely, utterly clueless about anything to do with politics. This, however, didn't deter Nick, as he took me under his wing and he coached me every step of the way. He led by example, walking the streets of Fair Oak and Horton Heath, delivering leaflets and knocking on doors. Nick put me to shame, as he seemed to have more energy than the Duracell bunny, with his batteries just never running flat. It really is thanks to him that I'm standing here today, so I'm grateful for the tireless way in which he tackles a challenge. To quote the author William Arthur Ward, the mediocre teacher tells, the good teacher explains, the superior teacher demonstrates, but the great teacher inspires. Nick has certainly inspired me. Over the years, it's been a privilege to have Nick as my mentor, as he has been incredibly patient, teaching me the ropes. Nick is one of the kindest and calmest people I have had the pleasure to meet. And Nick, thank you for your steady and compassionate leadership. Certainly needed the patience with me, I'll tell you that. Some people retire and enjoy a quiet life, but clearly Nick is not one of those people. He's committed to working to support others in the community. Nick is devoted to helping local residents with any issues they are facing, picking up casework, meeting with residents, and doing whatever is needed to help them to resolve the issues that they have. As well as all that he does as the borough and parish councillor, he also supports a local school as governor, as you've heard, and he spends a significant amount of time volunteering by helping citizens in a charity offering free advice. Clearly, this didn't give him enough to do, so when suddenly we were faced with the threat of our library being closed, he offered his time to save our library. And Nick has done an incredible job with working with a group of people to not only save the Fair Oak and Horton Heath Library, but also making significant improvements to it. The thing that surprises me is that his lovely wife, Anne, ever gets to see him. Anne, to you, I wanted to say thank you for supporting Nick in all his endeavours to help our community. Mind you, some may think it is your way of just getting him out from under your feet. He will certainly be much busier next year. I'd like to leave you the quote from Jim Rohn. The challenge of leadership is to be strong, but not rude. Be kind, but not weak. Be bold, but not bully. Be thoughtful, but not lazy. Be humble, but not timid. Be proud, but not arrogant. Have humour, but without folly. Nick, you certainly have all of the best qualities of a leader, and you will make a wonderful mayor. So, members, it gives me great pleasure to second the proposal that we choose Councillor Nick Caldry as Mayor for the principal year 2023-24. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other nominations, or do any other members wish to speak? In that case, all those in favour of the election of Councillor Nicholas Caldry as Mayor for the ensuing year, please show.
It's unanimous, Mr Mayor. Carried.
Fantastic. I thereby declare Councillor Nicholas Caldry to be elected Mayor of the Borough of Eastleigh for the municipal year 2023-2024 and until acceptance of office by his successor. Congratulations, Nick.
I invite the Mayor to read out and sign the Mayoral Declaration of Acceptance of Office.
I, Nicholas Caldry, elected to the office of Mayor of Eastleigh Borough Council, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to observe the code as to the conduct which is expected of members of Eastleigh Borough Council. I now ask Alison Manning to invest Anne Caldry with the Mayoress's badge. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow councillors, I'd like to start by thanking you for electing me as mayor for the next year. Your support is important in giving me the confidence I need to do the job and to give some support to our communities during the year. Of course, the nomination was set up some time ago, so you can't say that you were misled by Councillors Gomer's dulcet tones. I must confess that speech has been worrying me, because the proposal is meant to cut the mayor down to size. Now, in other cases, that's a very good idea, but I was a little bit nervous of that. So you have to be very careful who you choose to make the proposal. What you can't choose is someone who knows all about your misspent youth. So Councillor Gomer did a very good job. Thank you very much. And of course, I did give him some dreary facts and threw in a few tidbits, but I was very surprised and delighted with the very kind words that he said to me, and for the wonderful, he made me look really rather good. So thank you. And I'd also like to thank Councillor Marsh, who is my fellow councillor in Fair Oak and Horton Heath. She and I have the two smallest majorities on the council, and we've had to work very hard together to scrape back home. So I really value her support, both in our villages and here on the council. As I start my mayoral year, I'm very conscious that I have a hard act to follow. Adam Manning has been an outstanding mayor. Sometimes mischievous, always fun, despite the tragedy of his son's death. His impact is illustrated by the only instructions that I have received about this job. No more cartwheels. The robes won't stand it. Well, the thought that I could do a cartwheel was actually quite funny, but there we are. He's been very ably supported by his wife, Alison, and I know I speak for all of us in thanking them for their brilliant service. Sadly, Adam's now retired as a councillor. Adam, we'll miss you, and your vivacious humour particularly. So no more handstands on the bandstand, just me, and I'm going to be very boring. These gloves are terrible, aren't they? You don't have to wear them all. Right. It's a bit odd that I've got this role. I had no connection to Eastleigh when I moved here 35 years ago with my wife. We bought a house that was advertised as being in Winchester. A key feature was that my wife could get to her new job in Southampton and I could get to my old one in London. And work and bringing up children didn't leave a lot of time. And so by the time I retired, I didn't actually know the area terribly well. I knew Fair Oak and Bishopstoke, of course. I could get to Eastleigh and Botley without Google. I'm not sure I could venture alone into Chandler's Ford or deepest, darkest Hiltonbury. I had been to Hamble, but I had no idea that I'd gone through Bursledon and bypassed Netley. And of course, I knew I'd been through an end, but which end was which, well, who knew? I'm now better informed. Over the last few years, I've discovered that Eastleigh is not quite what it seems. If you look at the statistic, it looks pretty average in many criteria. But if you look a bit further, you will find it isn't like that at all. There are a wide range of different communities. Some areas are rich, some poor. At the core, there's a former industrial town that certainly isn't typical of southern England. We have old villages, new ones. Some suburban overflow from the city next door. We have industrial areas and farmland, transport hubs, and a dearth of public transport. So it's all quite an eclectic mix, and varied and very complex. And that means that the people in our borough face a wide variety of challenges. And as the cost of living increases, more people are becoming vulnerable. This pressure manifests itself in many different ways, whether it's debt or homelessness, family breakdown, or finding the next meal. There are many ways of handling these problems. But where do people start? Well, that's where citizens' advice comes in. It can't solve everything, but it can give people a hand and point them in the right direction. And that is why I've chosen citizen advice to be a mayoral charity for the year. I hope you'll give it your support. Like all councillors of whatever political views, I stumbled into being a councillor in the hope that I could make the place a bit better. Well, it's much harder than it looks from the outside. And of course, it's very satisfying if you can actually get something done. Now I say if you can get something done, but of course it's not really councillors that get things done, it's the council staff. They know which buttons to press and which levers to pull. So once you can get through the barriers thrown up by our computer system and actually talk to somebody who knows what they're up to, then you actually find a very constructive response. That's been my experience, and I know that it's most of yours as well. And so that's the secret of our running a really good council. And we know that recently the staff have been having a pretty torrid time, and I know that you will join me in thanking them for all that they've done. During my year as deputy mayor, I've been packed off to do this and that. To my surprise, I found it interesting. Find things out that you had no idea about. For instance, I was astonished to learn that children fleeing the bombing in Guernica in the Spanish Civil War were actually given refuge in Chandler's Ford. There's also been a bit of fun. I had a hilarious evening the other day, when we went to watch the Bishopstoke Players. But what I've really discovered is that there are vast numbers of small community groups doing whatever they think is important for their particular area. They seem to want the support of the mayor, and they certainly deserve it. And that's why I am very happy and honoured to take up this role. We will now proceed to the vote of thanks, and I invite Councillor Malcolm Cross to move a vote of thanks to the retiring mayor.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, Mr. Mayor and guests. Well, I would say Mr. Mayor, but Adam, what we would say now is the past mayor. It's been an eventful year, being sad and rewarding for yourself and the whole country. Representing the residents of the borough with reference to the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, with celebrations all over the country, friends meeting after a long period of COVID restrictions, the state funeral of the Queen, who has served the country all her life. The reading of the proclamation of the Majesty of King Charles III was a huge honour for yourself and the Mayoress. You have been the Mayor of Eastleigh through these momentous occasions, this being once in a lifetime event. The Mellow in Eastleigh, which is in itself a great event within the calendar, in which you stated that it was very hot in the robes. Well, all I can say is, what do you expect when you do cartwheels in the park? Putting on weight with the community lunch at AWCA, the Royal Party, the picnic at the pavilion and in the park, and other functions that you went to. I believe you put on weight. Yes. The Remembrance Day, which was a poignant time for both you and our twin towns to come together. I remember that I believe you were nearly arrested outside the British Embassy on your visit to France. Correct me if I'm wrong. Well, I had to really, because you're a lawyer, aren't you? Well, as having a great year, we will miss all the flamboyant hats, neckties that we have seen on Facebook, and of course the walking cane that you have, which I saw this evening. Show everybody. All in all, we thank you for your mayoral representation of the residents and the council over the past year, and the memories that you have given to the residents that you have met over the past year. And I say again, thank you. I move the motion to the retiring mayor. A vote of thanks. Thank you.
I now invite Councillor Steve Holes to second the vote of thanks.
Mr. Mayor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's the furthest I've walked in the last 6 weeks without falling over. Usually carrying a bag, a heavy bag. I seconded the motion for Adam to be mayor last year, so I went back to the words that I spoke at that meeting. I noticed that we warned you that Adam would be his own mayor, in his own image. And those of us that knew him really well down in Bursledon and Hamble knew what was coming. I'm not sure everybody else did, in the nicest possible way. I described him as a superhero mayor because of his love of comic books and superheroes of all types and sort of descriptions. And when I seconded the motion, I said that with fondness because I knew how passionate he was. I also warned you that Adam loves dressing up. Malcolm's alluded to it. And we've seen that this year. The mayoral robes became a natural addition to Adam's wardrobe. I hope, Mr. Mayor, that he doesn't try and take them from you, because I'm sure he'll miss them. Tick. Facebook mayor. Probably the first mayor of Eastleigh in our history to have such a prominent place on Facebook. I can't recall the number of happy faces, happy smiling faces I've seen accompanying Mr. Mayor during his year on Facebook. Wonderful pictures. And showing how hard a job it is actually and how many events you attend. So Tick loves dressing up, all those bowlers and top hats and suits that he wore in many of those pictures. Again, very much his own mayor. I warned you that Adam is enthusiastic and full on in whatever he does. Certainly would prove that. This has already been mentioned, the cartwheels, etc. Full of energy. Tick. I warned you that his year as mayor would be like no other. I think we can safely say that Mr. Mayor from last year certainly was very different to many mayors in the past, but nonetheless remembered with fondness and a smile from those that met him during that time. Reading my speech from last year, I record telling you all that he's a big fan of Doctor Who. And in a week, when the Lord Mayor of the Blue Town down the road apparently came into the arena at mayor making to the strenuous tones of Metallica. Incidentally, one of our councillors suggested Freebird by Leonard Skinner. So I'm glad it wasn't you, Mr. Mayor. I was so tempted to bring my pad in with and play the strain of Doctor Who as Adam left the building today, because he's a massive Doctor Who fan. And I record that I actually said in my speech that for this year, this past year, all universities, known and unknown, are missing out to Eastleigh. Well, it's time, after a very successful year, to give him back. He's got a lot of new ventures that he wants to follow and look into and explore, and indeed he stood down as a councillor at this recent election. I don't know which universities you're going to do that exploring in, Adam, but I'm sure that whatever you do and wherever you go, you'll be very well met and you will be very popular, as you have been in your time with us, not just as mayor. So thank you, Adam, and thank you, Alison, for supporting him. And I second the motion. Thank you.
Does anyone else want to speak to the motion? Councillor Garden.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I just wanted to add my thanks to those of the previous councillors, to Adam Manning. I have the privilege to attend several events where both Adam and Alison have been present, and I have to say that every mayor brings their own style to the role, and Adam certainly brought his, so I'm very pleased to say. But if I may, and I'm not out of order, and I don't want to embarrass her, I'd just like to say thank you very much to the mayoress, because as mayors, they take on this role, and their escort or partner then support them throughout the year. And I have to say, Alison, you've been absolutely brilliant. So thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Mayor. And may I wish you and your mayoress all the very best. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak to the motion? Then I put the motion that the best thanks of the council be extended to Adam and Alison Manning for the admirable way in which they have carried out their duties of mayor and mayoress during the last year. All those in favour, please show.
That's carried unanimously, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I invite Adam to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and congratulations on adopting your new position. Dear friends and fellow citizens of Eastleigh, I want to start by thanking Councillors Cross and Councillor Holes for their kind words, and our wonderful former Mayor, Cynthia, who was an inspiration to me with her patience and kindness when she was the Mayor. That was always a touchstone for me on how to behave as Mayor. Also, I want to thank our previous Mayors, Darshan and Bruce. Darshan is our legendary two-term Mayor, our pandemic Mayor. So, again, very inspirational, so thank you. As I look back over my year as Mayor, I'm filled with pride and gratitude for all that we have accomplished together. It has been an extraordinary year, and we have celebrated some truly momentous occasions, such as the Platinum Jubilee in honour of our beloved and much-missed Sovereign Lady, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. The Platinum Jubilee occurred shortly after we became Mayor and Mayoress, and we were immediately plunged into lots of fetes, carnivals, street parties, and of course the big party on Lee Road Recreation Ground. This was a very happy time, and although we might forget it now, the country then was still very much recovering from the lockdown, and people seemed particularly overjoyed to be out and about, enjoying the company of friends and family. Our celebrations of the Jubilee were a true testament of our community spirit and patriotism. We also celebrated the Mellor and Eastleigh Pride, events that showcased the diversity and inclusivity of our town. It was a joy to see people from all walks of life come together to celebrate their cultures and identities. I was especially thankful to Dannon Robinson for inviting the Mayor to Eastleigh Pride and the kindness and patience he showed to me personally. I am looking forward to the next Eastleigh Pride later this year so I can see His Worship Councillor Couldry as Mayor as he disco dances down the High Street here in Eastleigh. My year as Mayor has been momentous for historical royal reasons, and we will all never forget the passing of Her Majesty in September of last year, a time of great sadness for so many of us. Again, the people of our borough came together, this time on an occasion of profound, sorrowful national mourning. This was followed by giving the proclamation for His Majesty King Charles III, which I think is always going to be by far the greatest honour I will ever have outside of my family life. I was very nervous beforehand and so grateful to have the support of my fellow councillors and officers of the council to help me. While I was mayor, my charities were the Royal British Legion and Ronald McDonald House. I was always honoured to support the Royal British Legion in supporting and caring for our veterans, which I think has to be one of our most important duties in looking after those people who have put their health and safety on the front line to protect us. And so I'm very pleased to see my friends Steve and Muriel and also Dave, and especially the tireless champion for the Royal British Legion that is Rose. These are wonderful people, and I admire and I'm grateful for the companionship and friendship of those people involved with the Royal British Legion. Ronald McDonald House, for those that don't know, isn't a charity set up to support people who want to endlessly eat burgers. It is actually accommodation that is provided for families when their children are having medical treatment at hospital. So, as you might imagine, to my family, it is a charity of the greatest importance given what we've gone through. So again, delighted that we were able to raise so much money for such worthwhile charities. And as Mayor, I was able to attend at Ronald McDonald House in Southampton for their Christmas celebrations, where we were very pleased to see a bauble that had the name of our son Benjamin on it. Our journey to one of our twin towns, Villeneuve-Saint-Georges, was a highlight of the mayoral year. We were made so welcome there with abundant French generosity. And I think this is Malcolm where he's talking about putting on weight as mayor comes in. And taking part in their acts of remembrance was poignant and sombre. To see the ranks of graves for our honoured war dead in French soil, by and large young people in their 20s who had died for their country, was very affecting. An honourable mention must be made for our wonderfully kind and dutiful translator, Mr. David Lloyds, who I believe is here this evening, who excelled himself in both his linguistic skills and also our best moving fair solicitor, who made all things much easier than they otherwise would have been. Recently, we have been celebrating the coronation of King Charles III, and in particular, we enjoyed being part of our wonderful community lunch. My years seem to be marked by such historic events, something we could never have foreseen a year ago upon becoming Mayor and Mayoress. I wish to thank my fellow councillors and officers for all their kindness and support throughout my year. It has been a pleasure to work with all of them in the role of Mayor, and I also want to thank, in particular, Mr. Mike Douglas in Communications, who always had the knack of making me sound far more eloquent than I am in reality when I was lucky enough to have him write my lines. I am also grateful to our Chief Executive, who kindly and patiently pointed out to me after signing the book a year ago to become mayor that I had managed to put the year as 2021 and not as it should have been 2022. I've enjoyed working with James and I'm glad the council is in such good hands. Special and honoured mention must be made of two, without whom the office of mayor would be unfeasible. There is the mayor's mace bearer, Marion, who not only carries the mace with such dignity, but carries the mayor, figuratively speaking, of course, at many events. Many is the time we have turned up events and put on a bit of a show, and I've been so lucky to work with someone so professional and personable. Thank you for everything, Marion, for being my right-hand woman. And then, of course, there is the extraordinary Debbie Bourne. Debbie is my hero, a superhero, in fact, here at the council. The mayor of the Borough of Eastleigh would not function at all without her constant and seemingly unlimited assistance and advice. Overflowing with the generous use of so much of her time, Debbie is a credit to the council. Sorry, Nick, could you read the rest for me? There we go. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
The office of mayor would be entirely unfeasible and untenable without someone so dedicated and giving of their time and energy as her. The English language is entirely deficient in awarding her the sufficiency of the praise that should be accorded, and I commend her to the Council's special recognition and reward for all that she does. Nick, as mayor, you will have someone in Debbie who could not be more helpful and brave in coming to your assistance of all. At all hours. Now, you then put some things in about me which we can drop.
On track, thank you. Thank you for your patience. Speaking of our new mayor, many of us think of Nick as someone with a wonderful, sparkling sense of humour, of good cheer, so much wisdom and experience, and patient kindness, and I know he will be using this to great effect as mayor. I am delighted Nick is our new mayor of Eastleigh, and know he will be magnificent in the role. You and Madam Mayoress are in for an extraordinary year, and I cannot help being a little jealous knowing what is in store for you. Good luck, Nick and Anne. You have our full support and all the encouragement you could wish from us. Finally, as I know I'm going on, I wish to close by thanking the people of our borough of Eastleigh for all their kindness and patience shown to me during my year. It is our people that have really made the year such a delight, all the fun and happy times we have had. Thank you. Being mayor has been the time of my life, and I will always look back on it fondly. Thank you for giving me the chance. Now the mayor is like Doctor Who, in that the role regenerates every now and then, and we now have a wonderful new mayor. He's going to be brilliant. But forgive me, but I will always, I swear, remember when the mayor was me. Thank you. Thank you.
I now have pleasure in presenting a past mayor's badge to Adam Manning. I call on the Mayoress to present Alison Manning with a past Mayoress badge. Thank you. Next item on the order of proceedings is the election of Deputy Mayor. I invite Councillor Maud Attrell to propose the nomination for the office of Deputy Mayor for the year 2023-24.
I propose Councillor David Pragnell for the municipal year 2023 to 2024.
Thank you. I invite Councillor James Duguid.
I second the nomination.
Are there any other nominations? Or does any other member wish to speak? Then I move on to the vote. All those in favour of the election of Councillor David Pragnell as Deputy Mayor for the ensuing year, please show.
Carried unanimously, Mr. Mayor.
I declare Councillor David Pragnell to be duly elected as Deputy Mayor of the Borough of Eastleigh for the municipal year 2023-24 and until acceptance of office by his successor. Please could the Deputy Mayor assume the robes and badge of office? So you need to find your robe.
Just coming.
I invite the Deputy Mayor to read out and sign the Declaration of Acceptance of Office.
I, David Pragnell, elected to the office of Deputy Mayor of Eastleigh Borough Council, declare that I take this office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil that office to the best of my judgment and ability. Oh, is that a bit well? I undertake to observe the code as to the conduct. I've got to behave myself. I undertake to observe the code of the conduct which is expected of members of Eastleigh Borough Council.
I now ask the Mayoress to invest the Deputy Mayoress, Jean Pragnell, with her badge of office. We will now proceed to the next item on the order of proceedings, the conferment of Citizen of Honour Awards, and I ask the Chief Executive to read the resolution of the Council on 27th February 2023.
That the title of Citizen of Honour be conferred upon Val Down for voluntary work with Eastleigh Rotary Club, Mohammed Mosaddeq, known as Moss, for voluntary work with the Asian Welfare and Cultural Association and for promoting inclusion and diversity, and Steve Smith for voluntary work with One Community.
Val Down is the current president of Eastleigh Rotary, and this is her third time in this office. She is a very hands-on volunteer, helping at events and raising funds for local causes. Val retired from her coaching and training business some time ago, but she has continued to support local small businesses through the networks she has set up and the networks on behalf of Eastleigh Rotary to raise funds and increase membership. Val volunteers as a dementia awareness trainer and speaks to local groups on a regular basis. She's also a volunteer with Brendan Care and supports their community hub and allotment. The allotment provides lots of fresh food for Eastleigh Basic Banks and flowers for the dementia home. Val is a super ambassador for volunteering, and this award is a fitting accolade for all her hard work. I invite Val to come up and sign the Roll of Honour. Steve Smith has been volunteering for one community for over 8 years. He's provided over 10,000 hours of support and has a regular volunteering role supporting young carers with transport to vital respite, driving vulnerable, older, isolated individuals to a social lunch club twice a week, and installing telecare services to over 500 homes across the borough of Eastleigh. Bloody gloves. Steve has the biggest smile. He listens and he cares about the clients and residents that he serves. He volunteers with pride and humility and always goes above and beyond what is required. He is dedicated, reliable, compassionate, and understanding. Steve recognizes when individuals are in need and signposts them to get the right services and support. He has improved the lives of over 5,000 Eastleigh residents, and we hope that he will continue to do so for years to come. I invite Steve to come up and sign the Roll of Honour. Moss has done an incredible amount to promote and encourage inclusion, diversity and community spirit in Eastleigh Borough. He was instrumental in setting up the Asian Welfare and Cultural Association in 2002 and has been a member, trustee and advisor since it began. He started Eastleigh Mellor as a mini festival in 2006. It now attracts thousands of people each year. In 2014, Moss initiated the annual Diversity and Inclusion Award, which recognises the achievements and contributions of individuals, businesses and organisations who promote accessibility, inclusion and full community participation. Moss has also volunteered for Bishopstoke Carnival Committee and is a trustee for the Eastleigh, Gurkha and Nepalese Association, who he has given a tremendous amount of work and support over the years. Moss recently moved to Yorkshire to be closer to his family, but he is still involved with the Cultural Association, the Gurkha and Nepalese Association and the Mellor. This award recognises all that he has done for Eastleigh and all he continues to do. Unfortunately, Moss can't be with us tonight. We send him our best wishes and hope to see him soon to present his badge and certificate. But that concludes the business of mayor making, and we will now move on to the annual general meeting. Any guests who don't want to stay for the AGM, and I don't really advise it, they can move on to the foyer for tea or coffee. Councillors, next we need to confirm as a correct record the minutes of the council meeting held on the 27th of February 2023. May I have a proposer and a seconder, please?
Propose, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor House, any seconder? Councillor Corbyn. Are there any questions regarding the accuracy of the minutes? Is there any debate? I appreciate that some of you weren't at the council meeting, so you may want to abstain, but please can we now take a vote? All those in favour? Against? Abstain?
Carried, Mr. Mayor.
In respect of declarations of interest, councillors, you are reminded that you must declare any personal or pecuniary interest in accordance with the council's code of conduct and standing orders. Do any councillors have any interests to declare? The next item is confirmation of election results as detailed in item 10 within the agenda. May I have a proposer and seconder that the report be noted, please?
Proposers are printed, Mr. Mayor.
Proposed by Councillor House, seconded by Councillor Corbyn. Can we take a vote? All those in favour? Against? Abstain?
Carried, Mr. Mayor.
The next item is to agree the number of places on committees, the scrutiny panel and other bodies. Please note the membership of the Airport Consultative Committee will be confirmed at Cabinet on the 5th of June 2023. May I have a proposer and seconder, please?
Mr. Mayor, I think I should probably say proposers emailed really these days, but proposers printed.
Thank you. We have Councillor House proposing, Councillor Corbyn seconding. Can we now proceed to the vote? All those in favour? You're absolutely right. Do we need a debate? Do you want to say something? Councillor Parker-Jones.
Thank you very much. Firstly, congratulations on your mayoral year, and I hope you enjoy it. And my thanks to Adam, because he was an absolutely exceptional mayor, and it's going to be a hard job for you to fill, Nick, but I'm sure you should do it. No, the reason I really wanted to speak is, as you will notice, we had two people who didn't stand again, and now in the opposition we're even smaller, with just 4 of us in total. And that makes me worried. not because of our ability, but the fact that there is so few of us, that this council really needs to consider getting some external scrutiny or some assistance to look at what you're doing. 3 people in the independents is not enough. And I think it's so important for yourselves to be able to check it. And I also noticed that not all of the new members, or not all of the members who beyond our groups, have got necessarily places beyond their local area committees. And I don't know if that's good for democracy and for them to ensure that their voices are heard beyond just full council and beyond just the local area committees. So it's a plea, really. It's a plea that we look at other ways that we can strengthen our scrutiny so that this council performs the best it possibly can for all of the residents across the borough. And that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Craig, do you have...
Just to prove that I have scrutinised ourselves. I'm on the list as A. Craig in quite a few of them, but then further down under Cabinet, I'm Tonya Craig. So I either need to be T. Craig for all of them, which I am. Right, so if we could just check that. It's Antonia is my formal name, but I'm known as Tonya, so it should be T on all of them. That was my bit of scrutiny.
Thank you. We proceed to a vote now. Councillor House.
If I should just briefly reply to the debate. Mr. Mayor, congratulations on your election. Very, very pleased to see that. Actually, Tonya's clearly quite right. She's T. Craig. There's the Craig, not A. Craig. There's only one Tonya Craig, which is kind of reassuring, really, I guess. But the point about the contribution from Lou Parker-Jones, I mean, fundamentally, councillors get elected by the will of the electorate. The electorate have chosen that there are 35 Liberal Democrats, 3 independents and 1 Conservative councillor at the moment. And I always defer to the electorate in these things. But this council does take scrutiny very seriously. The Audit and Resources Committee that Steve Holes chairs does a great job in that, and that involves opposition councillors. The Policy and Performance Panel that Richard Gomez chairs, again, does exactly the same thing, makes recommendations to Cabinet, and most of the time Cabinet agree with those. Not always, but most of the time. And that's the whole point of how the internal scrutiny process works. But we also do have external scrutiny. We have still quite lively press who are regularly in contact, scrutinising and doing what journalism should be about, which is probing, challenging, questioning. We also get involved in scrutiny across the local government sector. We'll be visited this year by a team from the Local Government Association in a process which happens about every 4 or 5 years, which is called a peer review, where a group of senior staff and senior councillors from outside the council come in and do a bit of mentoring and support for the authority. And various members of this council have taken part in those processes for other councils too. So it's called peer support, how local government supports itself around the country. And we even have the occasional scrutiny from government. When government wants to take a prod and try and understand how local government really works, we get visits from all sorts of government bodies along the way. So there's no shortage of scrutiny, and we value scrutiny from across the council, whether it's from the minority groups or indeed from within the Liberal Democrat group. And Liberal Democrat councillors put themselves forward to serve on different committees as a matter of routine. Inevitably, newer members of the council often want to get to grips with the local area committee first before getting involved in too many other things. But others do get involved from day one. George Brown's gone on, I think, almost every committee that exists, because he's a bit of an academic in these kind of things. He'll be a fantastic job at scrutinising and participating in things that this council does. So there's no end of opportunity in this regard, Mr. Mayor, and I welcome anyone getting involved in anything they can do along the way.
Thank you, Councillor House. Anybody else want to talk, speak? No, so can we move to a vote, please? All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions?
Carried, Mr. Mayor.
The next item is to agree the appointments, subject to any revisions, to committees, scrutiny panels and other bodies as set out in the main agenda pack. May I have a proposal and seconder, please?
Proposal is printed, Mr. Mayor.
Proposed by Councillor House, seconded by Councillor Corbyn. Does anyone want to speak on this? Councillor Craig.
Just again, it's A. Craig as shown on there. That needs to be changed to T. Thank you.
Anybody else? Can we proceed to a vote, please? All those for? Against? Abstentions?
That's carried, Mr. Mayor.
The next item is to appoint the chairs and vice chairs, subject to any revisions, as set out in the main agenda pack. May I have a proposer and seconder, please?
Proposal is printed, Mr. Mayor.
Proposed by Councillor House, seconded by Councillor Corbyn. Any debate? Can we now proceed to the vote? All those for? All those against? Any abstentions?
Carried, Mr. Mayor.
The next item is to approve update to the Council's constitution. May I have a proposer and seconder, please?
Our proposal is printed, Mr. Mayor, and also to note an additional supplementary paper that's been circulated today, which I believe councillors have either got on their table or had electronically.
Thank you. Any seconder? Proposed by Councillor House, seconded by Councillor Corbyn. Do we have any debate, please? Councillor Curl.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. May I also offer my congratulations on your elevation to the Mayor of Eastleigh. Hope you very much enjoy your year. Just on, maybe this falls under scrutiny, self-scrutiny as well, possibly. On page 36, or whatever it is on my iPad anyway, with regards to 5.01, the proposed text I thought was quite interesting. I was just wondering whether we could get some clarification on it, because it says the Mayor and Deputy Mayor will be appointed annually by the Council from amongst the councillors who are not members of the Cabinet. So I was just interested as to why, as a Cabinet member, I'm not allowed to then take part in voting for the Mayor unless I'm totally... It just seems a bit strange. If it were saying that the Cabinet are not the ones who make the nominations, well, I can understand that because it should be a full council process. But the wording seems to say that it eliminates Cabinet members from taking part in that vote.
Mr. Mayor, it's all about how you read the words. The Mayor and Deputy Mayor cannot be, due to legislation, members of the Council's Cabinet. So the way the wording is meant to be read is that the Mayor is selected from amongst those members who are not members of the Cabinet, and the same applies to the Deputy Mayor. It was a bit of Tony Blair control freakery in around about 2000 that said that the Mayor shouldn't be a member of the Cabinet, and the Constitution reflects that.
Councillor Parker-Jones, did you want to say?
It was only one quick one, actually, on the supplementary, which says under point 2 that the council will delegate authority to the service director, governance and support to update the constitution as necessary to reflect any amendments to cabinet or portfolios as determined by the leader under Article 7, which not necessarily have a problem with, but is it still going to be ensured that all councillors are informed of those amendments that the officer may make on their behalf?
Thank you, Councillor Parker-Jones. Councillor House.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can confirm that's the case. I mean, the whole point here is just tidying up so that in the event of minor changes happening, they don't have to come back to full council for ratification. Clearly, everyone will be informed of any changes that are made as part of this provision.
Thank you, Councillor House. Is there any further debate? May we proceed to the vote? All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions?
That's carried, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, thank you. That now concludes the meeting. Our next scheduled council meeting will be on the 20th of July at 7 p.m. back here at the Point. I declare the meeting closed, and I'd like to invite you all to join me for tea and coffee in the foyer. If any councillors would like a new councillor photo, please see a member of the Democratic Services team. Thank you for coming.